Hello and welcome to Herein Lies the Peace of God in the Awakening Together Sanctuary. The Awakening Together Sanctuary is an assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self. Within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols, we seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. The host of Herein Lies the Peace of God is Reverend Jacquelyn and Eckert, the President and Minister of Awakening Together. Our co-host is your favorite anarchist preacher, Reverend Glen Ganaway, integral scholar. The Course in Miracles says this about discerning one truth. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
Sing glory, glory, hallelujah. How wonderful thy holy name. Now I can see with God's own vision, and I see peace instead of pain. Yes, I see peace instead of pain. I can see peace instead of pain. Amen. We rely on that. We really do. And there we are. Welcome to Herein Lies the Peace of God. How you doing, Jackie?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm really good. We're having an audit at work. I manage a couple of $1 million checking accounts for a union, and the auditors are coming in, and me and my boss are going over all the things, and I should be more stressed out than I feel like I should be more stressed out. You know what I mean?
I'm glad you're not.
It's like, I know this is important, and I know I'm doing my best, and I know that checks and balances are really important, especially when you're dealing with some health benefits for essential workers and things like that. But it's like I just started to go down that old worry road.
Yes.
A little, because it's a habit, right? It's like you catch yourself doing it, and I didn't do it. And I heard, I'm clairaudio, so I hear Holy Spirit. I know a lot of people really hear a voice, and I'm one of those people that kind of often hear a voice. And she said, it's going to be okay this time.
Oh.
It's like, oh,
okay, no problem.
It could be okay it could be. And I was going to accept that. I wasn't going to say, but
yeah.
Don't you? But I have, he doesn't.
I worry a little bit.
I know. So we're asking. She's asking an interesting question tonight.
Yes. How is Judgement relinquished? Yes.
How have you worked with that at all this week? Have you thought
That's
about? That's
all I've done this week, because I'm telling you, this. I could have just read this. Could have just read this at the retreat today and saved my voice. But yeah, this is exactly what we're looking at in the Releasing the I Am Bad Belief retreat.
Oh, Judgment. Oh my gosh. Releasing the I Am Bad Belief. Judgment would be like a central, what they call in the Vedic, the Bij mantra of the essence, the core of,
Yeah, and Glenn, not only, and what we really focused on today was the creative process.
Oh.
And that's really what this is going to, is the creative process. So absolutely. It's core. It's core to what A Course in Miracles teaches. It's core to what we teach here at Awakening Together. It's certainly core to the Releasing the I Am Bad.
Yeah, I think she uses the word curriculum like 3 times.
Yeah.
In comparing it to what are you learning? Where do you get your learning?
Yeah.
You know, whose teachings are you, gonna abide by? You know,
Give your believing attention to. Yeah.
Yep. Give your
Yeah.
believing it. That's haven't heard that. That's interesting. That's very good. Who or what or how are you going to get? And she gives this instructions again, and all I could do was like say, I'm just going to do the 7 steps again. I'm just going to like do the 7 steps to decision making, and that's just we're gonna call we're gonna call that how you relinquish judgment.
Well, yeah, and we talked about you, frankly, today in the retreat. Your name got mentioned. We didn't actually talk
Wow.
about you.
Maybe that's why I was so calm.
Because you recently taught the rules for decisions.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing here. You're going to listen to a guide. Just which one is it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because we've all had there's often, I think, different like, can you hear the different attitude from your dad's voice or your mother's voice, or like your favorite teacher or your frenemy, those voices are also in your head, right?
Yes.
You can pull all of that stuff almost immediately back up into your head about, and you could probably imitate what your mother or father, because those were my primary teachers. Like, so it's like I can tell you in almost any given situation what my father would say and what my mother would say, probably what my mother would say.
And frankly, and we talk about that in the Freedom from the Judge retreat. Yeah, whose voices are you storing up here? The judge comes through in your dad's voice, your mom's voice, your first grade teacher's voice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the boss's voice.
It's a aware. See, that's why I like this. The curriculum. It's like, how do you? And this uses a big word, relinquish. She loves those. Relinquishing judgment.
Sounds easy, right? When you say it like that, it's just like it's gonna float away.
I know. It sounds like a tall, cool drink or something, doesn't it? Would you like some relinquishment?
It does. Isn't that funny?
I know. A little cucumber in the top of it. Here's your relinquishment.
That sounds good, actually.
But this is a pretty good one. We are 10. This is only question 10 of 29 questions. So we're gonna really get into this. We've started with trust, and we moved through a lot of areas so far, but she really does keep moving back to and I keep getting reminded like why she starts with trust. Because what this is all about. What's your experience, and what are you trusting to come true? What are you building upon? What are your foundations? And I love school. I loved school. I outline books and stuff. I still, and all of that. That's a real safe, beautiful place for me. I went to the library instead of going to lunch. That's what.
Of course you did.
Of course I did.
You're such a nerd.
I know, absolutely, 100%, 100%. So when you say what's the curriculum, and I'm like, oh, there's a curriculum. I want the curriculum.
Give it to me.
I want the curriculum. I want the curriculum. So she says that a lot. I think I've been as I walk 20 blocks a day going to and from work, and I come home to my a lovely lunch that Yolanda prepares.
That's sweet.
I know. So I walk this 20 blocks, and it's on the sidewalk, and it's during rush hour twice a day. I'm walking along a sidewalk on a 4th Avenue, which is the feeder road to the Verrazano Bridge. It's how you get to Staten Island on a car. So right. It is, there's a lot of people, a lot of stuff going on. So one of my and there are 3 car dealerships on this road. And so there's a lot of parking on the sidewalk, and a lot of obstruction. So one of the things that I work with on a daily basis is not losing my mind with drivers and being a pedestrian, taking my life into my sometimes. And so that judgment, of this, shouldn't be this way. So I've been nearly sick, made myself sick at going to work, at being so upset, and feeling like all of, so I've been working with judgment a lot, actually, recently. This chapter was quite a a culmination, kind of a culmination of things. But tell you what, it's kind of a long chapter. So what do you say we get the reading under? I've been practicing because it's kind of long. It's not
okay,
too
fair
long.
enough. And I'm not sure we clearly stated. Obviously, herein lies the peace of God, or the opening from the opening paragraphs of A Course in Miracles. So we're looking at A Course in Miracles, and specifically in this program, we're looking at the Manual for Teachers. And specifically tonight, we're looking at section 10 of the Manual for Teachers.
Oh yeah. I just, I've been with it all day. I just think all you are already in my head, I guess. Right. This is chapter 10. It's called How is Judgment Relinquished? And this is how it begins. Judgment, like other devices by which the world of illusions is maintained, is totally misunderstood by the world. It's actually confused with wisdom and substitutes for truth. As the world uses the term, an individual is capable of good and bad judgment, and his education aims at strengthening the former and minimizing the latter. There is, however, considerable confusion about what these categories mean. What is good judgment? What is good judgment to one is bad judgment to another. Further, even the same person classifies the same actions as showing good judgment at one time or bad judgment at another time. How can any consistent criteria for determining what these categories are be really taught? At any time, the student may disagree with what the would-be teacher says about them, and the teacher himself may well be inconsistent in what he believes. Good judgment in these terms does not mean anything, no more does bad. It is necessary for the teacher to realize not that he should judge, but that he cannot.
You skipped a word in that sentence.
Oh, it is necessary for the teacher of God to realize not that he should not judge, but that he cannot. I get it?
Yes, you got it there.
Okay. There you go. In giving up judgment, he is merely giving up what he did not have. He gives up an illusion, or better, he has an illusion of giving up. He is actually merely more he has actually merely become more honest, recognizing that judgment was always impossible for him. He no longer attempts it. This is no sacrifice. On the contrary, he puts himself in a position where judgment through him rather than by him can occur. And this judgment is neither good nor bad. It is the only judgment there is. And it is the only one and it is the only one, God's Son is guiltless and sin does not exist. And that's in quotes. The aim of our curriculum, unlike the goal of the world's learning, is the recognition that judgment in the usual sense is impossible. This is not an opinion, but a fact. In order to judge anything rightly, one would have to be fully aware of an inconceivably wide range of things, past, present, and to come, and would have to recognize in advance all the effects of his judgment on everyone and everything involved in them in any way. And one would have to be certain there is no distortion in his perception so that his judgment could be wholly fair to everyone on whom it rests now and in the future. Who is in a position to do this? Who, except in grandiose fantasies, would claim this for himself? Remember how many times you thought you knew all the facts you needed for judgment and how wrong you were. Is there anyone who has not had this experience? Would you know how many times you merely thought you were right without ever realizing you were wrong? Why would you choose such an arbitrary basis for decision making? Wisdom is not judgment. It is the relinquishment of judgment. Make then but one more judgment. It is this: there is someone with you whose judgment is perfect. He does know all the facts, past, present, and to come. He does know all the effects of his judgment on everyone and everything involved in any way. And he is wholly fair to everyone. And there is no distortion in his perception. Therefore, lay judgment down, but not with regret, but with a sigh of gratitude. Now are you free of a burden so great that you can merely stagger and fall beneath it, and it was an illusion, nothing more. How can the teacher of God rise up unburdened and walk lightly on? Yet it is only this that is his benefit. His sense of care is gone, for he has none. He has given it away along with judgment. He gave himself to him whose judgment he has chosen now to trust instead of his own. Now he makes no mistakes. His guide is sure, and where he came to judge, he comes to bless. Where now he laughs, he used to come and weep. It is not difficult to relinquish judgment, but it is difficult indeed to try to keep it. The teacher of God lays down happily the instant he recognizes its cost. All of the ugliness he sees about him is its outcome. All the pain he looks upon is its result. All of the loneliness and sense of loss, of passing time and growing hopelessness, of sickening despair and fear of death, all these have come of it. And now he knows that these things need not be, and not one is true. For he has given up their cause, and they, which never were but the effects of the mistaken choice, have fallen from him. Teacher of God, this step will bring you peace. Can it be difficult to want but this?
Thank you, Glenn. Reverend in London, doesn't that sound like what we were talking about today? It's amazing, isn't it?
Can you want but nothing but this?
Yes. All right. So let's, I don't know how this is going to turn out. I got lots of notes.
I do too.
On this page. Yeah. So we'll just,
that's what it's like. I'll read, you go first.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. So here we go. Okay. Let's see. Judgment is confused with wisdom and substitutes for truth. And until you read it, I hadn't really focused on the second part of the sentence that I didn't read just now. Judgment, like other devices by which the world of illusions is maintained. Judgment maintains this world of illusion, right? It substitutes for truth. So, and we were talking about this before we began in terms of the rules for decision. You're always going to follow a guide. I'm sorry, you are. Something motivates your behavior. It's either wrong-minded thoughts or right-minded thoughts. It's either ego or Holy Spirit. So ego stands in and goes, I know, follow my judgment, right? The problem with doing that is when we do that, it reinforces ego's view of the world, which is, I got to get mine before you get yours. It's a dangerous world. You attack me, so I'm going to attack you either before you can attack me or I'm going to attack you back, all in the name of self-defense. And it's really defense of the ego, right? And so we just keep all that alive, and we keep our belief in what we are as ego alive. That's all we're doing when we think we can employ judgment. Because it goes, oh, that's bad. And we go, okay, well, we'll make sure that doesn't happen again, or we're going to punish that guy because he did it, right? Whatever ego says is good, we follow. Whatever he says is bad, we want to punish or make somebody guilty for, including us, right? This thing about what is good judgment to one is bad judgment to another. And sometimes, sometimes that thing's good and sometimes that thing's bad. It's so variable. You can't even tell what good judgment is, good or bad judgment is. Regina often talks about this in terms of, in some countries, they kill women who have sex out of wedlock to save the honor of the family, and that's considered good. Well, if what's good can vary from country to country, from person to person, it can't be truth. Truth never varies. Truth is applicable across the board, no matter who's applying it, what situation it's applied to. Truth is true. It's always true. The rules don't change. So that's how we can tell it's illusion. It's crap that the ego made up. So, yes. So, this next paragraph says it's necessary for the teacher of God to realize not that he should not judge, but that he cannot. He never could. It's an illusion that he could. The idea that I know all the moving pieces and where everything goes and how all this is going to turn out. I mean, just looking at it directly like that, it shows it's absurd. I can't know all that. Let's see. So recognizing this, the teacher of God gives up illusion, or has the illusion of giving it up. But what he's actually done is become more honest. He's simply recognizing that judgment was always impossible for him. Right? So he goes, I can't do this. I understand that in AA, they say your stinking thinking got you here. Right. So right. That's the impetus to go, okay, all right, somebody else needs to take over because I can't do it. So we're recognizing that. And so this is talking about, of course, surrender. It's talking about beginning to listen to the voice for God, the voice that likes you, as you often say, Glenn. And that voice always just says, oh, everything's okay. It's all good. You're not guilty. Yeah, you don't have to. You're not guilty. You're not vulnerable. You don't need to protect yourself. All is well. That's all that voice ever says. That's the judgment of the Holy Spirit. You're going to be
okay this time. Like
exactly.
You're going to be okay this. You're going to be okay this time.
Exactly. Yeah, God's Son is guiltless, and sin does not exist. Let's see. Yeah, here's the thing about one would have to be certain there's no distortion in his perception. His judgment would be wholly fair to everyone. And in the margin, I wrote, this sounds like Mickey Singer, right? From The Untethered Soul. It's like you have given your mind a really tough job. It's got to make sure that you never offend anybody, that everybody likes you all the time. I mean, it's an impossible task. It is an impossible task. Let's see. So wisdom is really in recognizing that I can't make any judgments because I don't know. And by the way, my perception is distorted. How is my perception distorted? It's distorted by everything that I've believed in the past. So I believe the world is a dangerous place. I believe that I am separate from you. I believe that we could have separate interests. I believe that I need to attack you before you attack me, or at least attack you in retaliation. I believe that this is how the world works, right? And that's not wisdom. That's more illusion making, right? That's how we make the illusion. That's how we We reinforce it and keep that illusion of what we are, is what ego tells us we are. That's how we keep it going, is by going, yeah, what do I do now? And then you act on that, and then you feel bad about acting on that, and the ego goes, look, I told you were bad, right?
Both voices,
yes,
both of those voices.
Our ego, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it tells you what to do, and then it's like, why did you do that? Only a bad person would do that. And you go, okay, I'm bad, I guess. But then you go right back to that counsel again the next time, right? You just keep turning to that voice because you don't know any better. Doesn't make you guilty, but it makes you stuck in that loop. Mm-hmm. So again, wisdom is not judgment; it's the relinquishment of judgment. There is someone whose judgment is perfect. This is inner wisdom. This is Holy Spirit. This is talking again about surrender. He does know all the facts, past and present, and to come. He does know all the effects of his judgment on everyone and everything involved in any way, and he is wholly fair to everyone, for there's no distortion in his perception. This distortion in perception is what we talked about all day today in the releasing the I Am Bad Belief retreat. Our perception is distorted. Gosh, am I going to go into this whole how this works? Yeah, I will go into how this works. We talked today about the creative process, or the law of love. We looked at some of the messages, including is attack possible? And the answer is no. No, only one thing exists. There's only one thing going on here, and it's love, and we call it love, not to be confused with romantic love. We could just call it the creative process, but it's famously said by Regina as love is spirit giving to spirit through spirit that which spirit requests. So we take all our thoughts, all our experiences, right, and we look at these thoughts and we believe them. And by giving our believing attention to those thoughts, to what we've conjured up based on the past, we send out a prayer to be shown that that's true. So somebody comes up and goes, oh, you want to know you're bad? And so they do something that shows you, that proves to you that you're bad, right? So that's how our perception is distorted. All we're seeing is a reflection of what we've believed in the past. That's the loop. What I think I see, what I see, I experience. What I experience, I think. That's the loop we get stuck in, right? That's how our perception is distorted. I mean, it just is. That's why we go, what do you want me to do now? Oh, attack? Yeah, you're right. I need to get him before he gets me. I mean, that's what we believe. That's what our experience seems to have shown us. And let's see. Now can the teacher of God rise up unburdened and walk lightly on? When we surrender that, when we look at that, again, today we talked about the way out of the loop. The way out of the loop is to look at what seems to be occurring, this attack or whatever that seems to be occurring to me, and recognize it is a misperception. It's a distortion of what's actually happened based on what I've believed in the past. Somebody has shown up to prove to me what I've given my believing attention to. That's the distortion. Sorry, I get lost when I start going on a loop. I get I get a loop and I get lost.
It
happens. So the way out of the loop is to look at what's going on and going, I recognize this is not a fact. This is a misperception. Therefore, I'm willing to see this differently. And so that's turning it over to the Holy Spirit and asking for the Holy Spirit's perception, in A Course in Miracles terms, asking for the Holy Spirit's correct interpretation, correct perception.
Like the song says, I could see peace instead of this.
Right. That's right. That's right. And it's just, and again, and we talk about the miracle as a shift in perception. This is the shift we're talking about. So now can the teacher of God rise up unburdened and walk lightly on? Yet it is not only this that is his benefit. His sense of care is gone, for he has none. So I don't have to worry about how things are going to show up. I don't have to worry about outcomes. I don't have to worry about what people will think of me. I don't have to worry about the audit that's going on in my office. I don't have to worry about anything. What is there to worry about? Because what does Holy Spirit inner wisdom tell me? All is well. All is well. You don't need to do anything. If you do need to do something, I'll tell you. All is well. Don't try and figure this out for yourself, because you're going to be wrong, because you're going to be basing it on your past, right? Don't try and do that. I've got this. I've got this. Turn this over to me. Let's see. It's not difficult to relinquish judgment, but it is difficult indeed to try to keep it. This last paragraph really says what I had just talked about. This, how we continue to build illusion, how we continue to build this false perception of myself and the world. It's not difficult to relinquish judgment, but it is difficult indeed to try to keep it. The teacher of God lays it down happily the instant he recognizes its cost. So when I figure out what I'm doing, when I look out there and go, oh my God, attack is real. Oh my God, I am guilty. Oh my God, I am bad. What I am doing is continuing the illusion, continuing to keep myself in that loop. But when I'm willing to make that shift in perception, when I'm willing to at the very least say, I realize I'm misperceiving, you take it, Holy Spirit, I'm willing to see it differently. What happens when that happens is all the results of that go too. Now, they might not go immediately, because I've been believing the stuff I've been believing for 60 years. So it might take a little bit to clear up. But it does change. It does change. The world changes, and my response to the world changes. So when I recognize that I but do this to myself, as the Course says, the cosmic joke, right? When I recognize the cost of continuing to see that as a fact, and that is a fact, and that is a fact, instead of seeing it as misperception, when I realize that when I do that, guess what? It's going to come right back around. Mm-hmm. Oh, great. I get to experience it again. If I say that's a fact, that's a fact, that's a fact. If I'm able to say it's a misperception, that is acceptance of the miracle. That is the acceptance of the atonement for myself. And let's see. And now he knows that these things, fear, death, sickness, hopelessness, now he knows that these things need not be. Not one of them is true, for he has given up their cause, which is this misperception, which is this misconception of what I am, right? And how that has me view the world. Yes, for he has given up their cause, and that's the cause. That's the cause. That believing attention that we give to those thoughts, that ego goes, here's some good thoughts. And we go, oh yeah, really? Okay, I believe them. That's the cause. Mm-hmm. He has given up their cause, and they, which never were, but the effects of his mistaken choice, my believing attention, my misperception. That's all that crap ever was. And they, which were but the effects of his mistaken choice, have fallen from him.
The Vedas talk about that as karma, as by like releasing the you paid the you see that it's there for the lesson, and once you have the lesson, the karma moves. The karma drops away from you, and it doesn't show up anymore for you to learn it anymore, because you finally learned it.
Yeah.
Right? And you don't have to do that again. And you'll do it until you learn it.
Yeah.
And everybody's that way. The king and the peasant and everybody's that way, right? Which is absolutely, mind-bogglingly ethical. That there are actually the same rules of engagement or rules of decision that we all make.
Well, and I so appreciate you making that point, because this is the law of creation. Everybody operates under this law. Me, you, the guy at the gas station. This is how we create what it is that we're seeing.
It looks this way because we created it this way.
Yeah.
We're experiencing this because we created it this way, because this is a reflection of our current beliefs. We experience our own beliefs. It can be no other way. If this idea of oneness is the case, it could be no other way. There has to be the wall that you bump your head up against, and it's the same wall for everybody. Everybody does. I don't have this wall. Everybody has the same wall. You're not. I'm also knowing, that sense of accepting the atonement for ourselves. And suddenly we accept it for everybody else, and I don't need to learn it for you because it's not my job. It's not my job anymore.
Yeah.
I've wanted to learn oneness for other people. There are many people I would like to hit over the head with atonement, so they would
well, and remember,
grow up already. I mean, please.
Atonement, of course, means correction. So it's that shift in perception. It's just shifting to correct perception. That, like you said, that's my responsibility.
And I've often believed that it's my job. I've often judged that it is my job to show you where you have been misperceiving.
You got this all wrong, buddy.
I know.
You're confused.
I know. But I mean, you do that, and you learn. That's how I learned. I learned by actually doing. I actually learned by paying attention to every mistake, everything, to fall on my face in public, so that I can learn faster. And I do. I don't want to pretend, so I can learn quicker. That's the fastest way I know to grow up and to mature in spirit, is to be honest about what's happening for me. I like this a lot. It's a how-to, It's a how-to method. How is judgment relinquished? Because she's answering the question, like, how do I get good judgment? And she says, no. No. I am not here to teach you good judgment. I am not here to give you a prescription about how to behave and what to do and go here and do this and this is the haircut and this is the wardrobe and this is the, I'm not here to do any of that, So I like this. How is judgment? She goes, well, if you could recognize that judgment is supporting everything that you don't like, poor judgment is supporting everything that you don't like, everything, all the suffering, all of that I actually am my judgment, my participation, my energy, my focus, my stuff is actually contributing to my own suffering, and I'm choosing to do that, out of unconsciousness, or thinking, like, I'm going to choose the ego because it promises something that I want, It can, if I can pound on enough car hoods, and I will surely make a difference in the world. I will surely, that would be the method. Well, it hasn't turned out to be the case in this ongoing experiment of mine. It has not turned out to be the case when I'm able to let go of my judgment about what's actually happening, and I'm really serious. It's like, what's going on, where everybody is and what's really happening. If I can really say, I don't know what's going on and I don't want to know what's going on. I want to I want to have the truth. I want to be one with, I want to be at peace with this. I want to uplift what is true in this situation. I don't want to be upset with what I'm looking at because I can see my judgment, I don't want to be a part of that paradigm. So the world of illusions is maintained by judgment, and it's and don't get me started about confusing wisdom with judgment, because that's so common in this world. It's that judgment is the substitute for truth. That is so subtle. Judgment is a substitute for the truth. I've believed people who said things emphatically, I can say it with enough emphasis and enough, oompa that it has to be true, I grew up in the Southern Baptist Church. I know that the more, I know how, that's an actual thing. And when she says, to look at our ideas of categorically of this categorical idea of good and bad, those concepts, good and bad, aren't like within the human talent pool. It's not something that we're reliably good at. I don't. History will tell you of like we've you could say it was a good there was the decision to drop nuclear bombs on Nagasaki was a good. It was determined that was a good thing. It was a good thing to do. There's no telling what was good or bad. There's no way of evaluating the history of the earth and saying that this needed to happen or didn't need to happen. There's not even close to enough information to do that. So that's a road that's very tempting for me, personally. And that's why this idea of letting go of judgment has been so impactful to me. My past learning really is not, my past learning or my past programming is not going to help. That this idea that discernment comes from outside of me, right? This learning idea, education, our education, this is the way that we're taught what's good and bad. And you can include political theory in this, and you can include praxis in this. What is, this train of thought, that train of thought, this school of thinking, that school of thinking, what's right and what's wrong, what's the correct analysis and everything like that. And then I wrote, whose judgment are we gonna, whose judgment? The Holy Spirit's? The school? A train of thought? Our culture? The times we live in? Whose judgment? So, I lose my place. She says, it is necessary for the teacher of God to realize not that he should not judge, but that he cannot. And she uses the idea of becoming honest with ourselves, and honest and humble with what's actually happening and what our history is and what we've experienced and what we thought was good or bad. To actually look at how we make a decision. And so she goes, give up what you can't do well, because there's somebody who does. And it's also helps us to recognize when we've moved into illusion. So, and I love the part that got me was that judgment moves through me, but is not by me. That says, that's allowing, that's being in the right place, that's taking the second place to gain the first, that's knowing, that's becoming a cooperative component, it's becoming an effective team member, it's becoming a tag team partner with the Holy Spirit. It's like, you tell me to do, I'll do this, and just being cooperative and looking for ways in which I can prove that these things are true, for myself. So it's through me, which means it's going somewhere else, right? It started somewhere, it's going somewhere, it's moving through. I am part of something. It's part. I'm a chain. It's moving through me. It's I like those ideas, and the only conclusion is God's Son's guiltless and sin doesn't exist. I love it because God's Son is guiltless. And so I made some notes. Can we move beyond a good and bad polarity? Can we think outside of a good and bad polarity? Yes. Everything we encounter is good and bad and right and wrong. And can we move beyond seeing the world, see this dualism, right? But some polarities are often really good because you can't pick up good without picking up bad.
That's right.
You can't, the rose comes with thorns. That's the polarity. You don't get the rose without the thorns. There's no way in the dualistic material world. And so this is really answering the question, can I find a happiness with things and in a material existence? You know, is a physical experience going to make me happy? The answer is no, because most of my judgments are about comfort for my physical self, and about making sure that I have some kind of power over somebody in deference, in access to resources. You know, so that's what we say. I need to be along with community judgment in order for me to have access to resources. Because if I don't go along with community judgment, then I don't have access to the water, and they might kill they might kill me if I don't sleep with the right person. You know, which, you know, they're still throwing queers off buildings in, you know, to this day, you know, and honor killings are just as are less common, but they're still you know, they're still happening. You know, you're only 38%. There's only a 38% chance of you living to be 40 if you're transgender. You know, so it's like those judgment have physical consequences.
Yeah.
You know, so the real fright of the judgment of others is often, you know, it's where we're sitting. How can I do that? Well, if we rely on Holy Spirit, if we rely on the voice that likes us, we know how to maneuver those things. The answer is not that these things are inevitable. It's that it's our judgments that are doing this, not the thing of the person, of the suffering is coming from the judgment. It's not, it's and the people are acting out the judgment, but the judgment comes first. So that's when she goes over and over and over again. Please go to cause. Please go to the cause of these things and stop doing whack-a-mole on symptoms. Right? Yeah. So the this is so beautiful, because it's the opportunity to see clearly. It's the opportunity to understand and to know, which is something that's dear to my heart. And it's the recognition that I think it's a good thing to be arrogant. You know, it's like, I know everything, you know. It's judgment in the usual sense is impossible. Who is in a position to do all of this stuff? And like we've been saying, it's a request for power over. It's the course's curriculum in contrast to the world's curriculum. And I like the manual for students too. When someone comes to me and they say you know, oh, I've heard you talk about A Course in Miracles. You know, where should I begin? I've never read it. I often say, open the manual for teachers first. It's, you know, because I think it's often more graspable for a first time, you know, to open someone read a first 50 statements on miracles can be, you know, a little new paradigm for them.
Tedious.
Yeah. So, and so we're always, she says this over and over and over again, the student and the teacher, the student. It's all through the courses, it's all through the manual for teachers. I will always be a student. I'm always going to be the student. Because I don't want the judgment. I don't want the control. My ego does, but a lot of the world says it would be better to have control over everything, right? Well, this leads to the desire over to control is a narrative, you know, a desirable narrative. It fills a lot of our movies. It's also the development in the infallibility of experts. It is all knowledge of this is in this person or in that thing, or it codifies and narrows where the right answer is, you know. For me, the development is the community's idea of right and wrong is an Overton's window. We can't speak outside of that. We can't learn outside of it. So it's the belief that we know what should happen. I know the direction that, you know, this relationship should go, or I know what the idea that I know the direction it's all supposed to go, because it's, you know, it's obvious. It's not. It's not. would I know how many times, would you know how many times that you merely thought you were right without ever realizing you were wrong? She says in another part in the Course of Miracles is, think back to a time when you thought you were making a really good decision and everything turned out horrible. You know, each one can think that the best time in your life actually was probably, could have been. Some of the triumphs have been tragedies in my life, and some of the tragedies have been triumphs. And there was no way of knowing that at the time. We talked about our relation, breaking up or ending a relationship, and how difficult that might have been, but how wonderful and what positive those the judgment at the judgment could be something else completely, and the reminder that wisdom isn't a judgment. It's the relinquishment of judgment. It's giving it to something that works. I want it to work. So I thought again, like you did, the seven rules of decision making. I can't. I could have the day I want. And that whole thing is the creative process, and
Yes.
what a little bit underneath this is: do I want to engage with real power? Or do I want to engage with fleeting world power? Do I want real power? And you said there's love, right? Am I really interested in love, or am I really just interested in the performance or the surface of love? And that realization that I want real strength. I want strength I can rely on. I want power I can rely on. I want decisions that I can rely on. And being fair to everyone, she says, if we rely on the Holy Spirit, we can have a world in which it's fair to everyone. That's really encouragement. But I can't resist when she says, rise up. If you'll do this, rise up unburdened. Unburdened by your judgment. Become who you are. Take away the judgment of who you're supposed to be, or who we're supposed to be becoming. Rise up to the knowledge of who you are, who we are, and break those chains, right? Break those chains. Because judgment is a burden. The burden is the illusory world, and we stagger and fall beneath it. We stagger and fall beneath money worries and desires to be seen as virtuous. And this is the eternal vicious critic, right? We were talking about that earlier, suspicious and vicious, right? This is the judgment that we're all very, very familiar with. And the promise is we can be carefree. 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 No worries. I'm not making the decision. I'm just about here. It reminded me of the tears of laughter, in which I remembered to forget, or forgot to. What is the forget? I just completely left my head. So
forgot to remember.
Yes, forgot to remember. I forgot to remember. Yes. So what I loved about so she goes on in the last bit here to talk about the cost of judgment. We're wrapping this up here, but in chapter 30, which is what we're going to be doing on Sunday, she says, joy has no cost. It is your sacred right. What you pay for is not happiness. So this cost of holding on to our judgment, the cost of upholding judgment, the cost of not being ourselves, the cost of not wanting to give ourselves away, the cost of not being in this flow, is, she says, living in an ugly world. She says, what you see when you do this is you look upon the ugliness of the world. If we're judgy McJudgy face, we're looking at an ugly world. You know, that's it kind of hit me. So we have flawed judgment, and that's okay, because we have an access to perfect judgment. So what's the problem? The problem is I want it to be just for me. The problem is I want to have better judgment than you. The problem is I want for my better judgment to be rewarded, with access to resources and power over other people. That's what often the world teaches judgment is for, right? So I ended up with, do I want peace? Do I want peace? Honesty and humility is characteristics of peace. So I can stop trying to earn it or deserve it. That it's here, and that I could let go into my own innate discernment and know what to do without having to practice any more than it's this practice of living, this practice of being me, this practice of authenticity, this practice of letting there be no distance between you and me, between us, accept the atonement. It means I might be able to see to help quicker. Isn't that what I want to do? To be a cooperative component? If I'm not judgy, wouldn't I be told, wouldn't I be more effective agent of peace and love in the world if I was using God, the judgment of the Holy Spirit? Do I want that? Do I want to be an effective, sharer of the love of God? Or do I want to be an effective presence of love? Those are good, really, incentives to me to listen to the voice that likes me, because I often want to be a bit of a bully to really mean people. So this is really directly what I deal with. I'm wrong. I don't want to be wrong. I want to do what's effective, so I don't rely on my own judgment. I want to be the presence of love, so I cannot act on this. I can't. I don't even have to understand it. If I can just not act on the programming, not act on the judgment, not act on my, the way it's got to be. It could be different. It could be. I could find out. We could find out.
We could find out.
Mm-hmm. And that concludes, what I've got. I really appreciate doing this with you, Jackie. It makes a big difference in my life. It really does.
Me too. I feel the same way, Glenn.
All righty. So that is what we're going to call... Ooh.
Fin.
Le fin. Fin.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. All righty.
You've been listening to Herein Lies the Peace of God with Reverend Jacquelyn Eckert and Reverend Glen Ganaway. To find out more about Jacquelyn and to donate to Awakening Together Sanctuary, go to www.awakening-together.org. To find out more about Glen and to donate to the Mighty Companions Ministries, go to www.glenganaway.com. That's GLENGANAWAY.com.